Ndị be anyị ekeneni m unu n'ụbọchị nke taa. Anyị sị na ya dịrị ndị Igbo na mma. Dịka o si dị, ihe a bụ Igbo Media ka anyị si wee na-ewetara unu ya bụ nnukwu ozi dị oke mkpa gbasata maka ana Igbo and Igbo community and ihe debe na Nigeria. Ya bụ ife ka anyị na-ewetara unu na Igbo Media. Dịka isi wee na-esole anyị, ọ bụ na nke a bụ ụbọchị izizi gị ị na-abịa n'ilu akwụkwọ na Igbo Media, ekabaru ka you subscribe and turn on your notification ka ị lapụ miss any of our update dịka anyị na-etikwu ya n'ilu akwụkwọ kwa mgbe. Dịka o si dị, o nwere ya wetara n'ụbọchị nke taa gbasata maka ka ya bụ ife si ada and gbasata maka ka ya bụ ife si akpọtụ n'ala Igbo. Biko mma achọ ka ige ya bụ ife. Ihe a bụ Biafran Prime Minister MAZI Simon Ekpa. O nwere ife okwu n'ilu akwụkwọ mma achọ ka unu ga-esi ya bụ ife ọ na-adọrọpụrụ anyị ifu nche n'ilu akwụkwọ gbasata maka ihe ndị a niile okwu. Alright, over to you, sir.
Simon Ekpa is not breaking any law. The Biafra government in exile and both in the homeland has never broken any law. And we will continue to increase the pressure and the defense of our land brutally. Nigeria is a terrorist state, and so anybody fighting Nigeria to defend themselves must be well prepared and equipped. And that's exactly what we have done. We have equipped the Biafra Defense Forces to brutally defend our land. If we don't do that, Nigeria will eliminate us. Nigeria will wipe our history away. But this evening, I've just come to give a special briefing of the Finnish independence, because many of you do not know actually what Finland went through. Today, Nigeria, terrorist state, is planning to do what other people have done. What they plan to do is to enact laws, that will put fear and instill fear in those people that are fighting for their freedom and even agitating for whatever structure in Nigeria. What they try to do is what other people have done in the past. Russia did it. We were told that they enacted a law that those who are agitating for freedom will go to 25 years imprisonment. I want you to understand that it's a badge of honor. You must be very proud that you are part of the movement that have broken the camel's back. And they will make them to always do the mistake of enacting laws in quest to quench the agitation for the independent state of Biafra. It means that the liberation of Biafra has attained a certain level that it has never attained even after the Biafra War. Because after the war, they did not think of enacting a law prohibiting or saying that anybody who agitates for Biafra again will be put to 25 years imprisonment. Owazirike came, they didn't enact the law. MAZI Nnamdi Kanu came, they didn't enact the law. They kidnapped him, and then the Biafra agitation changed with real fighters. And today, they are enacting law that if you're agitating for Biafra, you are going to be jailed 25 years. Do not panic. We will never allow you or allow such law to take effect. As a matter of fact, they think that we are actually joking in the freedom fighting. The declaration of Biafra is coming. So that law has no jurisdiction over any Biafran born on this planet. It will not. Now, let me tell you something. You know, Finland declared its independence on the 6th of December, 1917. But today, I want to tell you some of the secrets and some of the stories that you were never told about Finland. Now, I will somehow educate some of you on the history of Finland, what Finland went through. The proclamation of the Empress Elizabeth from 1742 subject of the independence of Finland. This independence of Finland was first mentioned in the 18th century, when present-day Finland was still ruled by the Sweden. Do you know that Finland was part of Sweden before Sweden ceded Finland to Russia? How many of you are aware?
Finland to Russia.
You don't know.
How many of you are aware?
That Finland was part of Sweden before?
You don't
before
know.
Sweden
You don't
ceded
know
Finland
that
to Russia.
before Sweden ceded to Russia.
And on the 18th March,
And on the 18th March,
during the Russian occupation in the Russia-Swedish War between 1741 to 1743, the Empress Elizabeth of Russia issued a proclamation in the Finnish language to the Finnish people, asking them to create a Finland which would be independent from both Sweden and Russia in later years. This particular proclamation led to the preparation to create a Kingdom of Finland in 1742. The Elizabeth nephew, Duke Peter of Hastings-Gottorp, who later became heirs to the throne of Russia, and Peter III, was proclaimed King of Finland. However, the political situation outgrows the idea of Finnish kingdom, and the concept quickly evaporated. I want you to pay attention. They had, from 1742 until 1788, there was another thing called the Angela Conspiracy. The Angela Conspiracy was a scheme in 1788, between 1788 to 1790, as a response to the end Gustav III Russia War. And it included the independence of Finland to some degree. Several people involved were linked to the well-ordained Russian occupation and the plundering of the 1713 to 21 Greater Rot. This still in vivid memory when Finns waged partisan warfare against the Russians. A man called George Magnus, who took no direct part in the conspiracy, had written a proposal for a Finnish constitution. That was in 1786. This particular person later had a role in forming the autonomous Grand Duchy of Finland within the Russian Empire. That is what we have formed today, the de facto government. It's just a replica of, it is just a replica of what you know as the Grand Duchy of Finland. Within the Russian Empire, as he became the first Governor General of Finland after Sweden ceded the rest of Finland to Russia. And this was in 1809, at the conclusion of the Finnish War. Now, Finland started what they call the rise of national identity. This was according to Professor Heiko, before a nation declares independence. I want you Biafrans to pay attention to the Prime Minister of the Republic of Biafra and Biafra in exile, government in exile, and of course the de facto government in homeland. Before a nation declares independence, it must develop a national identity and certain institutions. That is exactly what the Biafra government in exile and the homeland have done today. We have been able to develop more of the Biafra identity, national identity, and of course, many institutions of Biafra government. Governing bodies for Finland were developed after 1809, when it was elevated as a nation among nations, as declared by Alexander I, by becoming an autonomous Grand Duchy under the Russian Tsar. The date of Finland met regularly from 1863. The national identity grows simultaneously with a pan-European nationalism. Ronderberg and Lenroth created an idealized image of Finnish people and Finnish nature in the 1830s and 1840s. Also, the Snellman was a central person in national romanticism and modern nationality debate. He encouraged the use of the Finnish language instead of Swedish. Among the educated classes, during the Finland language strife, the Finnish mark was introduced as currency. Today, the Biafrans have introduced a gemma, exactly the roadmap, even when our own become very complex. While the Finnish introduced the mark as currency, we have introduced a gemma in this process. This particular mark was introduced in 1860 by the Bank of Finland. Today, Biafra has Bank of Biafra, have introduced a gemma and Biafra coin. This particular mark, which Snellman pegged to silver instead of the ruble, during the famine of 1866, Snellman worked to obtain aid and distribute it in a country with low resources and undeveloped communication. I want you people to understand, I'm not going to give you the entire history of Finland, but there is a reason I have come this evening to tell you that I have become a stone. I have become a stone, and I will be the end of this whole thing. We will hand over freedom to our unborn generation. Not fight, not agitation, not liberation. We are handing over freedom to them. And if you find yourself in the midst of the generation that Simon Ekpa is leading today, you must be very proud of yourself. Today, our motto of freedom or die is Nigerians, we are not, or we are no more. Southeasterners, as Nigeria gave it to us, we cannot become. Biafrans, we must be. I want you to understand that in 18th century, the Finn adopted what they call the phenomenon motto. The phenomenon motto was, Swedes, we are no more. Russians, we cannot become. Therefore, Finns, we must be. Biafra are replicating this today, on this day, 14th day of August 2024, that Nigerians, we are no more. Southeasterners, we cannot become. Therefore, Biafrans, we must be. It is going to go from here going forward, our freedom or die motto and slogans. My fellow Biafrans, something may shock you today to know that even from the 1917 discussion, the first period of Russification of Finland, in the 1899, with the February Manifesto, a legislative act given by Nicholas II, when Nikolai was the Governor General of Finland. As a response, the cultural address pro-Finlandia was gathered with 523,000 names. I am telling you today that Finland conducted self-referendum in the name of pro-Finlandia signatures. Today, you can call it a referendum. They gathered 523,000 names that is supporting the freedom and independence of Finland. They gathered these names and a delegation of 500 people was sent to St. Petersburg to deliver the signature of 523,000 names. Do you understand me? They took this step by themselves because Russia will never give them independence. They conducted the referendum themselves, gathered 523,000 signatures. Today, Biafra have gathered over 50 million signatures. Can you beat that? I am telling you, I will be the end of this whole thing. Forget all their nonsense in propaganda on social media. I am here physically. Finland gathered 523,000 names to declare independent. Biafra has gathered 50 million. 50 million Biafrans are still counting. After the Finland gathered 520,000 people, they sent 500 delegates to Russia with those names they gathered to St. Petersburg to deliver it. The King resistance movement formed at this time in the 1901 in Russia tried to alter the nature of the Finnish army. I want you to understand that as Finland was gathering 523,000 names, they already formed the Liberation Army of Finland. Today, you can call them the Liberation Army of Finland. And in response to that, Russia formed what they call the Kagao resistance movement. They formed this movement at that time in Russia. They tried to alter the nature of the Finnish army with a new conscription law. This is something Nigeria is doing today, wanting to enact a law that will say anybody who is agitating for freedom will go 25 years. Russia did it to Finland. They want to enact a law called the conscription law in order to alter the army of Finland. They call it conscription law, which demanded that Finns not only defend Finland, but also fight for Russia on any front. You understand? They wanted to carry Finland by force by enacting a law. What Nigeria is doing today is exactly what Russia have done. My people just believe in what I'm doing. You see, Nigeria will bring it down this year. Nigeria needed to go down for people to survive. Now, Finnish resistance grow into a mass movement. Are you listening to me? Because of this, Finnish resistance moved into a mass movement, and only half of the eligible men reported for duty. The Bobrikov was shot in 1904 by Egon, who shot himself afterward. The Finnish newspaper, Päivalehti, which had been censored before, was closed permanently as a result of the editorial written about assassination. Now, listen and listen attentively. The man who composed the Biafra national anthem, who is a Finnish man called Juan Sibelius, composed in memory of Skellman, the steamship SS John Grafton unsuccessfully attempted to smuggle large quantity of arms for the Finnish resistance during the Russo-Japan's War of 1904 to 1905. Even this Finland, people try to smuggle guns to give to Finland for their resistance army. The same thing we are doing today in Biafra land. It is a fight for survival. Today, people are bringing guns to Biafra to support us because we don't deserve to die. My fellow Biafrans, during the 1905 to 1908, a man called Leo formed a government and created a liberal democracy within the universal right to vote. Are you listening to me? A man called Leo Mechlin formed a government and created a liberal democracy with the universal right to vote and be elected. In 1906, the unicameral parliament of Finland was created with universal and equal suffrage. However, the power of the parliament was limited by the term from the 1908 to 1916. Now, I want everybody to pay attention. The second period of Russification of Finland. In 1908, the World War I led activist group to unite. Under Franz Albert, Bobrikov, successors of the Governor General, all legislation was moved to the Russian State Duma, which then pushed for laws restricting Finnish autonomy. Are you listening? They pushed for another law restricting Finnish autonomy. This is something that Nigeria, they are debating today, but they have made their end. Russia demanded higher payment, and the Senate of Finland was replaced with the Admiral Senate or a suburb Senate. Nicholas II pushed the complete Russification and the end of the Finnish autonomy in 1914. While Nigeria was being amalgamated forcefully, fraudulently in 1914, the end of the Russification of Finland started. The Finnish autonomy end of the Finnish autonomy started in 1914 in quest to stop Finnish freedom. But this was halted by the beginning of the First World War. The Jaguar movement was formed and sent first 200 and later 1,900 Finnish volunteers to Germany to be trained as Jaguars, a light infantry, for armed resistance. Are you listening to me? For armed resistance. The Finnish Jaguar formed 27th Jaguar Battalion. By the way, I served in the Jaguar Battalion of the Hammer Regiment in Finland. It's a historic battalion, as you're just hearing today. That was where I served in the Finnish military. The Jaguar Elite Infantry for armed resistance. The Finnish Jaguar formed the 27th Jaguar Battalion and were eventually sent to Libau to fight against Russian Empire. Sibelius composed Jaguar March lyrics written by Haig Nurmio, who served in the 27th Battalion. Now, I want all of you to understand that the February and October Revolution in 1917 ignited hope in the Grand Duchy of Finland. The revolution for Biafra hope is coming, and believe me, 1 month lockdown of the Nigerian institution is part of it. After the abduction of one of the men called Nicholas II on the March, 2nd March, just like they abducted MAZI and Kanu. All these things you see today did not start from Biafra. They also abducted those who were also in the forefront of the freedom in Finland in those days. The Persian union between Russia and Finland lost its legal base, at least according to the view in Helsinki. Exactly how everything have lost its legal base between Biafra and Nigeria, according to BIAFRANs in Biafran land. The same thing was applicable to Finland. As he was the Grand Duke of Finland, just the way MAZI Kanu is the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. This man called Nicholas II was the Duke, the Grand Duke of Finland. Now, when he was abducted, the negotiation began between the Russian provisional government and Finnish authorities. That led to Power Act. The resulting proposal approved by the Russian provisional
Ndị be anyị daalụ nne nnukwu unu si wee na-esore na Igbo Media dịka unu si na-esore anyị si na Chukwu oke abịa mapụrụ mmiri na ya gosi niile n'ofu n'ofu otu anyị kwuru otu akọ ya dịrịrị ise kabakwa alụ ka itinye alụ nke gị na ihe niile na gbasara maka ihe Biafran Prime Minister kwugasị n'elu akwụkwọ ana ndị ọzọ dị iche iche kabarụ ka itinye alụ nke gị ife ichere n'ụdị nke gị gbasara maka ya bụ ife dịka anyị nọkwa na-echekwa olileanya na Maazị Nnamdi Kanu ya pụta oge na-adịghị anya n'ụlọ mkpọrọ, anyị sị na Chukwuka abịa ma ga-enye ya ike, nọnyere ya, chekwaba ya, mana anyị kwuru otu a ka ọ ya dịrịrị. Ise. Thank you, and also stay tuned at Eastern News 24. Ka emesịa nụ ndị be anyị.